All right, everybody, welcome to Sails Up, America's favorite boat race. So here we go. So you have a red set of boats and you have a blue set of boats. You've got 3 dice and you have 1 wind token that's going to blow north or south for the entire game. Your objective is to get all 7 boats in your fleet off the board before your opponent. So for blue, your racetrack starts here at launch. You go up 8 squares, you turn and come down the middle 8 squares. For red, it's the same, but on the other side. Up 8 squares, turn, comes down the middle 8 squares. Keep in mind, you do have to roll the exact number it takes to come off the board. So for instance, if you're up here, you have to roll a 3 to come off. Now let's talk about wind. So there are 7 wind squares. There's 2 on blue side, 2 on red side, and then there's 3 that run down the shared middle. At the beginning of the game, you're going to take the wind token and flip it to determine the direction that the wind's going for the whole game. So in that situation, it's going north. That means that at the beginning of the race, when blue's going north, and at the beginning of the race, when red's going north, if you land on the wind, you get to roll again because you and the wind are going in the same direction. But on the back half of the race, when you're going south, you and the wind are going the opposite direction. So you don't get to roll again. Think of the wind blowing against your face. Now let's talk about gameplay and strategy. So let's just say you have 2 boats right here, and you roll a 3. So you have options. You can move this boat up here, up 3, and go in harbor, which we'll talk about later. Or you can launch another boat up 3, like that. But you can't move that guy, and here's why. Because if you did, you'd be sharing a square, and you can't do that. Another thing you can do is jump yourself. So take a look at this. If this boat gets a 4, he can jump himself. Here he is doing it again. You can also jump your opponent. No problem there. Now, check out this scenario. So I set this up to show you that you usually have lots of options. So take a look at this. Let's say you roll a 1. You can't move that boat because red's in harbor, and you can't move him because he's in the way. You also can't add a boat into the water because he's in the way. But you could move him up 1, and you could move him up 1. So it's always a good idea to look at all of the options all of your boats have all of the time. Now let's take a look at harbors. So there's 3 harbors, 1 for red, 1 for blue, and a shared harbor in the middle. All you need to know is that a boat in harbor is always safe, can't be tied up, and can't have a boat collision. We'll talk about those in a second. So a boat collision happens when one boat lands on the other and it's not in harbor. So in this situation, red lands on blue, and what happens here is you have to go back to the nearest empty harbor. Here's the situation again, but this time the harbor's full, and remember, you can't have 2 boats share, so he has to go all the way back to the start. In this situation, blue only has to be bumped back 2 squares because that harbor was open. He didn't have to go all the way back to his home harbor. Here's the situation again, but that harbor's full, so he does have to go back to that home harbor. And then here's the situation one more time, but both harbors are full, which means you have to go all the way back to start. Bummer. All right, let's talk about tie-ups. So if you land parallel with your opponent, you can usually tie him up. But in this situation right here, you can't because he's in harbor. So always watch out for that. But if blue happens to roll a 5, let's say in this situation, he's going to go up and become parallel with red. Like so. And that's a great thing. Now, red gets tied up by blue and he cannot move. So he's stuck there, right? He can't move. But there are a couple of ways to get out of it. So if red rolls a 6, he can untie. If he rolls straight zeros, he can untie. Another way he can get out of it is if blue moves on. If blue's like, I'm out of here, see you later, then red's good to go. Awesome. Now let me show you this tricky one. So if blue gets tied up on his own side, so let's say he goes up there, he's traveling north, red comes south 2 squares, and he ties up blue on his own side, blue can rescue himself. So watch this. The blue at the top gets a 3. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Bounces red all the way back to harbor, rescues his friend. And remember, the first one to get all 7 boats off wins.